What's that? A new card! We unlocked our first Tavern Brawl boss card, and my hair isn't blow dried, so we've got a super combo in this video.
Hey buddy, watch this.
Yeah, unfortunately only one card this time around, but it's still an interesting one, and I think I have a lot to say about it. That said, if you don't have a lot of time still, you can hit the quick review in the description below, or jump into the detailed review right now. Our card here is Plague of Madness, a 1-mana spell that equips a 2/2 knife with poisonous for both players. So this is one of the Plague cards that have symmetrical effects for the evil classes. This is clearly rogues. And I guess the idea for this card is that you get this 2/2 knife with poisonous, which will help you kill some really big stuff. So if your opponent is running a deck with lots of big minions, you could perhaps extract more value out of this symmetrical effect than could your opponent, right? Because if they play a big 8/8 Mountain Giant, you can kill the 8/8 Mountain Giant. Maybe you're only playing like 2/2s or 1/2s or just 1/1 lackeys, and they're not going to be able to extract nearly as much value out of their weapon as you can. Now, the challenge with that premise, I think, is that Rogue is a class which has trouble face tanking damage these days. I guess maybe always, really. Without a lot of life gain or survivability, it's much harder for Rogue to do those sorts of things, trading up into big stuff. So I don't think you get as much upside here as perhaps is planned. Now, some alternative uses for this card I think are a little more intriguing. For instance, just getting a 2/2 weapon on turn 1 could be good against small stuff. Maybe it's just good enough to kill a Flame Imp of your opponents, and you're not playing any minions anyway. If a certain deck is structured like that, this feels a bit like an odd rogue weapon almost. And again, maybe you don't care if your opponent gets a weapon. It's just not going to give them that much value because your deck is constructed to deny them any sort of opportunity. Almost like a weapons project for Warrior, how the Warrior finds ways to get more usage out of the weapons project than does the opposing class. I could also potentially just see this as like a 4 damage weapon in a deck that's looking for some really aggressive starts, where they're planning to race down their opponent. They don't really care if their opponent's doing 4 damage because they're just going ham and hitting the face really hard. But I think that's challenged a little more by the fact that usually aggressive decks are playing minions, smaller minions to get out those aggressive starts, a big Edwin Van Cleef, and this would expose them to some weakness there. So all in all, although I do see some use cases for this card, I kind of feel like it's going to end up being more awkward and more punishing than it really is going to end up being helpful. The symmetrical aspect here probably means the opponent is going to often get, almost as much value, which means there are alternative cards you could run that are just much more favorable for you in the long run. Maybe just like a Deadly Poison helps you achieve the same sort of thing, and Rogue has some other removal cards, so using your face as removal isn't always the best plan for a class that has access to other efficient kinds of ways to deal with things, like Sap, for instance, right? That gets rid of the same kinds of problems, but you don't take damage, still only 2 mana, and you're not giving your opponent an upside in the meantime. So all in all here, I think a playable card in some ways, one that's going to have a challenge finding a home, but there's probably some fringe use cases here where a card like this actually makes sense in some deck down the road. So I wouldn't totally count it out at this point. That said, let's go ahead and give this thing a 5-star rating. Plague of Madness is a 3-star card. And there you go, that wraps it up for this review. Only one card, unfortunately. I don't love doing these, but it just came out. We didn't have another review today, so I figured, hey, why not? Let's get it out there, see what people think of this one. It is a Plague, so it's pretty intriguing to see. So share your thoughts in the comments below on it. Is it going to be played? Is it not? Are the upsides there? Are the downsides too big? I want to hear your take, but until then, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, game on.